Today we're here talking to Matt Greenland of ReMax Palm Realty. It's Palm Realty, right?
Yep.
Okay, out of Venice, Florida. So, we talked about the fact that, you kind of worked as a team with Jenny Powers, which is your mom, I believe, both in ReMax. Now, do you guys both work as both with sellers and buyers?
Yeah, we do. We're a team based out of Venice, Florida. My mom's been in the business for 30 plus years, and I was fortunate enough to join her side about 2.5 years ago.
Right before all the fun started.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Nice. So now you're kind of primarily focused in Venice. Now, what other areas are you guys kind of focused on?
To be quite frank,
Wherever the business is.
We focus on Venice just because, we're a little bit better inclined to deal with the customers or service them a little bit better compared to
the areas
on a large area. Sarasota County would be like our area that we would focus on, but predominantly Venice.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird too because I've been here for 4 years, so I came from California and we first came here and it was amazing at how different all the areas were. So you kind of have to know not only the area that you're looking at, especially if you live there, but the culture of the area is very different, because you look at Tampa, St. Pete, Sarasota, Venice, Naples. I mean, they're all extremely different areas and culture. So yeah, it's pretty important to kind of know, what you're dealing with in each area.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. Venice is definitely its own little space.
Yeah. I love Venice. I mean, we live in Sarasota, so it's real close to that. So we get down there quite a bit, me and my wife. Yeah, we've had a lot of changes over the last couple of years. I mean, it's been a crazy couple of years with COVID. Now the housing market's kind of turned. How has the buyer interest, kind of getting back to areas, how has buyer interest changed over the time with regard to what areas people are looking at? Has focus kind of changed or?
Well, I'm a COVID transplant to Venice, so I'm not really sure what it was like before that.
Yeah.
But I've noticed a slight change since I've been here. We're seeing a lot of people come down for occupational opportunities, lifestyle change. And
other states you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. From other states.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
And then, the last portion of people that are coming down here to retire.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing because I tell people all the time, probably 90 to 95% of my clients are from out of state.
Oh, yeah.
And they're, we've had prices really increase dramatically over the last couple of years, and that is kind of a sticking point for some people. But, what I do, especially when I first came from California, I looked at the prices here and I'm like going, why is it so cheap here? I couldn't understand it. And so it made me realize, well, heck, if I'm thinking that, so is everyone else. And that's why we look at the people coming from, New York, Illinois, Connecticut, all these high price states. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. What about the types of homes that people are looking at or acreage? I mean, has that changed over the last, 1 to 2 years, kind of what they're looking for?
I think it depends on what stage of life they're in. If you've got a family that's looking for a single family house to raise or start a family.
Yeah, that's true.
Or, that maybe folks that are retiring, they're looking at something with a little bit less maintenance for exterior.
Small yard, fewer trees.
Exactly. Yep, condominium style, villa style living where their HOA fee kind of takes care of the building for them.
Yep. Yeah, and I don't know what kind of impact that's had. Maybe it's changed yet again now that we're kind of getting out of COVID. But that was a big talking point then, is that COVID kind of changed everything. That, people could now work from home. Now they wanted an office, a little bit bigger house maybe, since they're going to be staying home all day. I know people kind of started going back to the office to some degree, but except for here, as we were kind of talking about earlier, it's like, we had like 3 people in the office here, and normally we have, 20 or so or 30.
Right.
But yeah, that has definitely changed. But yeah, we'll see how it changes over the next few years, but it's kind of interesting. But so what do you think are the most challenging parts of the market right now? Just kind of big picture.
interest rates are difficult with most folks right now.
Yep.
There's a common gloom outlook on maybe certain world affairs, so it's difficult to deal with. But
Yeah, uncertainty basically.
yeah, most people
Yeah.
most people that I speak with, they realize that the world's going to go around no matter what.
Yeah.
So they're looking for the next opportunity, whether it's a place to live or a financial gain.
Yeah, I mean that's the interesting part because I have a lot of clients call me up and it's they I kind of like to my job is really more of a consultant. Not only to let them know. And yours too, obviously. What kind of house should they get? But is it a good time to buy? Should we wait? What are prices going to do? But yeah, you kind of have to steer clients, and I know you have this conversation with your clients too. Like, it's not an investment. I mean, it is an investment, but it's not like you're buying stocks. It's a place to live.
Yep.
It's a place for your family.
Yep.
So you can't time the market like you do a stock market or a bond market, something like that. So. Yeah, I mean, do you see that kind of changing over the next year, just the challenges that we're seeing right now, like, the start of the year?
I think it's about to pick up.
Yeah.
I mean, right now as we speak, things are picking up.
I'm already seeing that. We talked about that before we went on there, but yeah, it's definitely picking up. I'm getting a lot of calls, and I think, and I didn't really have this down as a topic, but it just kind of popped in my head. But I think that people at the beginning were kind of shocked that rates went up so fast. Prices had continued to go up for the last couple of years at just unsustainable levels. And we're starting to see a slowdown now. But it's interesting. Rates really have, they slowed down the increase, but they're still, increasing right now. They're a little bit over 7%, which is, historically not bad. But over the last couple of years, it's high.
Compared to the last couple of years, it's very high.
Yeah, and it's shocking to people. But I mean, do you think maybe, and this is just kind of my thought, is that people are now realizing that, okay, yeah, they've gone up a lot, but they may not go down a lot, going forward. So
that's probably a possibility.
Yeah.
I think most people are thinking that. I know, people were really reaching for the most amount possible for the property. Now that's not happening.
Yeah.
Sellers are willing to give concessions.
Yep.
It's definitely more conducive for everybody else,
Yeah.
involved in the transaction.
yeah, and that's one thing I talk to my clients about, and we had talked about this earlier, is that it's before you had people paying well over list price, waiving inspections. And now prices may not have dropped dramatically. I mean, but you can get some houses that have price reductions, and you can maybe get a concession too that you can use for paying down points or toward closing costs, stuff like that. So, yeah. So anyway, let's. I was going to switch over to, like, from a buyer's perspective. What are some of the things you tell clients that they should or should not do when buying a house? Don't buy that Ferrari.
That's a big one. Yeah, no major purchases on credit cards,
Yeah.
and don't buy a car.
Yeah.
There's a lot of do's and don'ts, and it would be tough to say,
gotta list them all.
But that's why it's important to work with a professional that knows what they're doing.
Yep. Yep, exactly. So yeah, try and have a list of things that you need to take care of, budget, stuff like that. But yeah, get pre-approved.
Absolutely, that's
for
one
sure.
of them. Absolutely,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What about I've done a number of these podcasts. I've never thought about asking this, and I don't really know that much about it. But what exactly would like if you buy an existing house, kind of an older house, 15, 20 years old. Should you consider a home warranty? Should buyers consider a home warranty? And what exactly would that cover? I don't even know how expensive stuff like that would be.
I think it's a case-by-case basis. Usually I've seen them fruitful when it involves appliances, and it's
Yep.
saved clients thousands of dollars,
Yep.
but definitely a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. And then what is a home inspection? And do you recommend that a buyer should get that? How does that differ from an appraisal?
I recommend a home inspection 100% of the
Yep.
time.
Yep.
Anytime you're purchasing real estate, it's a large purchase, and you need to be sure exactly what's going on.
Isn't it crazy that people are waiving those to buy a home?
It is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I have never advised anybody to waive a home inspection.
Yep.
However, I have worked with folks that have waived them just
Yeah.
because that was
They
the
wanted
current
the
condition
house.
of the market.
Yeah.
Now, it's good to see things kind of slow down a little bit to where there's more logic involved in the purchase rather than just pure emotion. promotion.
Yeah, yeah.
As for the appraisal, that's just a basic opinion of value.
Yeah.
Totally different. They kind of go in line with each other. The condition of the house clearly has, an effect on the value, but
Yep.
a little bit different.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because in the time where, I kind of get my years mixed up, but I was at 2021, I guess, where things were really getting kind of out of control. And, you had people that were paying, I think I had one client that actually paid like $65,000 over list price, and it appraised, way below that. And she's just like, I don't care, I want the place, and pretty surprising. So, yeah, I mean, have you seen much of that lately?
Not as much.
Yeah,
Waiving an appraisal is, if it's a little gap, and you can figure out a way to make it work, that's reasonable. But like you said, I've seen some, where it's probably $50,000-$60,000 difference, and it's not a good situation to be in. If something changes in the next couple of years and you're in a financial situation where you need to sell,
way underwater,
it's going to cause some problems.
Yeah, that's true.
Certainly.
Yep. Now, what about a survey? What exactly? Because I get this question all the time because we actually have that listed on the loan estimate, survey that title would order. And then, so what exactly is that? Does someone need that? And what exactly do they do when they do a survey on a house?
So it's boundary lines and legal description. And I would absolutely recommend to buyers to preview the survey before purchasing.
Yep.
If I have a listing, I also recommend that they get a recent survey on the property. That way, you can expedite the sales process.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you find an issue with a survey in the middle of a transaction, and it throws quite a wrench into the process.
Yeah, and I guess so what's the number one thing that they look at? I think it's I guess boundary lines is
Correct.
number one.
Yep.
If there's any, I guess they survey the land is kind of what they're doing. I mean, the way I always describe it to a client is the appraisal is looking at the house. The survey is looking at the land surrounding the house or the house sits on.
Correct. And it'll show easements and boundaries, that sort of thing.
Yeah, fence, did you put a fence in since last time, a pool?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, different things like
Absolutely.
that. So, yep. Pretty much lenders require a new one. If it's a recent sale, somebody bought it and they flip it and they just had a survey done. Sometimes, it's not required, but, I've never seen one where it's not required.
I've at 99.99% of the transactions that I've been involved in, if there's a lender, you need a survey. Yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the next one I had on there, do you recommend, we kind of chatted about this a little bit, but do you recommend that a buyer get pre-approved before looking for a house? So, this is more of a lender question, I guess, but, when you have a client come to you and just say, I don't know what I want to see. I don't know what to look at. I just want to look at houses first, get an idea of what areas, what type of house, what size, and then I'll call a lender. I mean, what do you say to them basically?
I advise against it.
Yeah.
It's important to know what exactly, you can afford or what is possible. If you don't, you may get your expectations set a little high, and then when reality
that never happens.
When reality sets in, it's sobering.
Yeah, and it not only does it happen on finances, but happens a lot with credit scores. And that's another topic, I guess. But it's funny because we may have talked about this before, but when people pull the credit scores online, they typically pull it from something like Credit Karma. Yes, it's the absolute worst because they have their own model that they run. It's their own proprietary model, and it's not even close to a real FICO model. And then even when you look at FICO, though, they have about 56 different FICO models, and they're different for each specific industry.
Right.
So that's what I tell clients because they always say the same thing. Oh, my credit's 820 or whatever it is. I'm like, let's run it first. And lenders, I don't know if you know this or not, but lenders actually use one of the oldest FICO models out there. All lenders use the same one, but it's one of the oldest ones out there because it tends to be the most conservative.
Okay.
And it actually tends to, because it's more conservative, it can kind of, tend to be on the lower side versus some of the other models out there. And so you have some people that are surprised that they thought they had over 800 score and it's, 740, 750. Which is still a good score.
Right.
But that just takes a bit of explanation.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yep. So, and then let's see. Now, let's talk a little bit about location. So now, we always hear in real estate, location's everything. So what would you say makes for a great location when deciding, where to buy a home?
I think it also depends on who the buyer is.
Yep.
If someone's looking for a commercial purchase, clearly, a lot of foot traffic, views from the road. If it's a family, probably close to a school, quiet neighborhood. Same thing for, folks that are in that last stage of life, probably a little bit more private, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Less upkeep, condo, townhome.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird how it changes over time too, because when we were young, we wanted something easy like a condo or townhome with a pool, a gym. People all kind of hang out at the pool. Then you get a little bit older, you start having kids. You want a bigger house with a yard. Then you go back to, when you get older, you go back to the condo again.
Right. Yeah, community aspect. Hang out with your friends in the neighborhood.
Exactly. So kind of funny how that changes. So I guess one of the last questions I had is, would you, because I'm starting to get a lot of calls now, and, kind of like you talked about earlier, you think that the market's going to pick up again, probably the start of the year, which I do too. And I'm already getting calls now. So would you consider, if you have people saying, I'm thinking about waiting for, whatever, rates to come down, prices to come down, would you tell them that now is still a good time to buy, and why? What makes for, a good time to buy right now?
Absolutely. I think if you're in the market to purchase between now and the beginning of January, I think it's a good time. Like always, we're going to get a surge of folks down here, and that's what exactly the market is. People purchasing.
Supply and demand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's going to get busy January through March.
Yeah.
That'll be a good indicator as to how the whole year is going to play out.
Yeah. So what's your? I didn't really have this down to talk about, but. If you had to have a forecast for, and I guess it would be probably the same thing that's going to happen, in January and February, springtime, that is going to be a good market. But do you see any major changes happening next year with regard to rates or prices or the economy or?
I wish I had a crystal ball, and then I
probably
wouldn't be selling real estate. I'd be on a boat somewhere.
Yeah, no, I agree. Nobody knows. And it's funny, the funniest thing I hear is when, because I watch CNBC all the time, and, you hear what the forecasters say about the markets, and no one knows.
No.
I mean, I used to manage money for 15 years, and it's like, we kind of manage for the long term. What's going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years, not what's going to happen over the next 6 to 6 months to a year.
Right.
But I guess the rates have gone so high, and, prices so high that we're just unsustainable. And, my thought is, and I want to see if you agree, is that, when rates are high and prices are high and inflation's high on pretty much anything, especially energy prices and food, that really hurts people. And it affects affordability. And so people naturally cut back on spending. When that happens, that's a trickle effect throughout the economy. It's going to hurt profits. It's going to hurt companies. They start laying people off. So the economy naturally slows down, which in turn is going to slow inflation. Which is good for rates, kind of like we were talking about. So if that happens, kind of like you said, I mean, it should be a great year next year for sure.
I hope that's the case. Yep. That would be good for everybody.
Yep, for sure.
Yep.
So, okay. Well, I think that's about all we had today, but no, I appreciate you coming here. That was awesome.
Absolutely, Connor. Thank you for having me.
If anyone wants to reach out to Matt to talk about, the real estate market, or to buy, or even to sell, feel free to give him a call. What's your cell phone number?
941-806-9587. Email address is greenlandsellsfl.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for coming today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely no problem at all. Have a good one.
All right.